it is hurricane season. It might not seem like it right now because we haven't seen a drop of rain in a while, but believe it or not, it is hurricane season, and we do need to be prepared. Even though you might be prepared, you've got to be prepared to take care of your pets too. You know, we've got to think about our pets when it comes to hurricane season, because it never fails, you know. Well, to tell you the truth, whether it's hurricane season or not, you know, if you're not around and something happens, you need to be prepared to take care of our pets, okay? So what I'm here to talk about is what we can do to prepare our pets for hurricane season. We learned after Hurricane Katrina, when Katrina hit New Orleans, people would not leave because they couldn't take their pets, because at the time, shelters were not accepting pets, okay? And, you know, if you can't take your pet, people weren't going to leave. Like I said, how do we want to prepare our pets for hurricane season? All right, first thing you got to do, I know some of you said that you were prepared, but if you're not, you need to prepare yourself first, because you can't take care of your pets if you can't take care of yourself, okay? All right, first thing you need to do, I mean, the one, I say good thing, that's might be the wrong term, but the good thing about a hurricane is we usually get a fair amount of warning before they hit, right? So you can usually prepare for a hurricane. But we're in hurricane season right now, and the fact of the matter is, whether it's a hurricane or not, if you have a plan for yourself and your family and your pet, you're much better off than anybody else, you know, that I'm from the government, trust me, I know. You can take care of yourself better than we can take care of you, okay? And we appreciate the fact that you can take care of yourselves. But in the event that, you know, a hurricane's coming and you start, you know, ramping up things and putting your kits together and things like that, you know, you got to keep calm. Dogs and cats and animals, they're very intuitive, okay? They know when bad things are happening. And they know how you think, okay? So rule number one, you got to stay calm, okay? The calmer you are, the calmer they will be, all right? And I've mentioned this before, and I cannot say it enough. You got to have a plan, okay? You got to have a plan in place, a plan for you and a plan for your pets. I have a plan for somebody to go and take care of him. And if they need to, they can take him wherever they need to go. You know, everybody's kind of spread out, so, you know, whatever place is going to be least affected, that's where he goes. But that is my plan. They know where the food is, they know where his leash is, and all that stuff. But you got to have a plan. You know, we have seen it over and over again. People are out of town, you know, and a hurricane hits. And, you know, the waters start rising. Their animals are at home. And I'm not only talking about dogs and cats. I'm talking about livestock and things like that. People are gone. You've got to have a plan, people. Okay? And if you do, hey, I appreciate it. If you don't, you need to get one. And if you know any other people, pet owners or non-pet owners, I can't emphasize enough, have a plan in place just in case something happens. And don't wait till the last minute, because we've all seen what happens. Long lines for gas, long lines at the store, things like that. My policy is, and the policy at our office is, when a hurricane passes into the Gulf of Mexico, past the Yucatan Peninsula, we all fill up all of our vehicles, we all stock up on food long before it gets way up into the Gulf, okay? So you've got to plan ahead and don't wait till the last minute. If you decide to stay home with your pet, you know, have an emergency supply kit together. You've got one for yourself, do not neglect your pets, okay? Because the things that you need aren't necessarily the things that they need. We all know that. Include food, water, medications, medical records, and a first aid kit, okay? Staying home with your pets. Make sure you have a collar with an ID tag, a harness, and a leash. A lot of people, and I'll be the first to admit, when I'm at home at night and it's just he and I take the collar off and he can, you know, that way he didn't have to deal with a collar at night. okay? So, but keep in mind that, if something happens, you've got to be able to get that stuff on them. Make sure they've got familiar toys, treats, their bed, things like that, all right? Pictures of you and your pet together, and, I know you can't do this with horses and things like that, but bring your pets inside. It's not necessarily during hurricanes or whatever, but, we've seen it during lightning and thunder, just a regular storm. Bring your pets inside, okay? If you decide to stay home, be prepared to be self-sufficient for at least 3 to 4 days. So when you put your kits together, make sure you've got enough for 3 or 4 days at least. Now, Harvey was one of those unusual storms where we didn't get a lot of wind. It was all rain and things like that. So for the most part, we didn't lose power. But do y'all remember Hurricane Ike in 2008? We had parts of the county that were without power for 3 weeks, okay? So, be prepared for the long haul. If you decide to evacuate, and I will say this, during Hurricane Harvey last year, there were 200,000 people in the county under some type of an evacuation order at that time. 200, that's a quarter of the population of the county, okay? That's a lot of folks who are under an evacuation order, whether it was a mandatory evacuation order or voluntary, okay? But we had 200,000 people. All right, if you decide to evacuate, know where you're gonna go. Do not wait till the last minute. If you decide to go, let somebody know, okay? Or when I'm going out of town, I let my kids know, I let my neighbors know, and they know that, hey, keep an eye on the house, and things like that. So if you decide to evacuate, I would encourage you to take your pets. I can't imagine leaving a pet at home during an emergency like that if you're going to evacuate. But, sometimes it's necessary, but, if you can, take your pets with you, okay? Evacuate early. One of the things we saw, I think maybe it was Hurricane Ike. We didn't. Galveston County and Brazoria County ordered evacuations of their residents. So, because, Ike was a wind-driven storm. We had traffic lined up all over the place, and then the mayor of Houston goes on TV and tells everybody to run for their lives too. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you live in Fort Bend County or Harris County, unless you are worried about storm surge and you live there on the coast, you don't need to evacuate, okay? Okay, now granted, Harvey was a rain event, and we did order some evacuations, but it was an anomaly, and it hasn't happened in this county since, we talked to a lot of folks, and we haven't ordered those evacuations ever. So for the most part, we leave the roads open for people who are evacuating from the coastal counties. But we're also encouraging them, take your pets, because unfortunately, after Hurricane Ike, the roads were clogged, cars overheated, pets overheated, they ran out of water, they ran out of fuel, things like that. So, if you decide to evacuate, please evacuate early. Bring a pet carrier if possible, okay? And one of the things that the state has mandated, and in all honesty is helping fund, is pet carriers for the counties, okay? We're trying to get some pet carriers and things like that, more pet carriers, but that's part of the big overall animal issues plan, is to get some pet carriers and things like that. But if you don't have a pet carrier, you need to get one, because that's the safest and easiest way to transport your pets. And as I stated earlier, if you can stay calm, your pets will remain calm too. All right, and have an emergency supply kit. Pet supplies: 1 week supply of food, medications, vaccination records, photos of you and your pet, because unfortunately people get separated from their pets all the time. So if you have a photo of you and your pet, make sure you have it with you. Kitty litter in a pan, poop bags, a manual can opener, because you may not have power, food dishes, and a first aid kit for you and your pet. Most importantly, make sure your pets have ID tags or are chipped, because like I said, there's going to be a lot going on. They're going to be frantic, and you might get separated. What does Fort Bend County do to help prepare for pets during the hurricane. First thing, Fort Bend County Animal Services, they have agreements with the Austin and San Antonio Pets Alive. They empty the shelter because it never fails. In the last 3 years, we have had 4 federally declared disasters in the county. We had flooding on Memorial Day of 2015. We had flooding on Memorial Day and Tax Day in 2016, and we had Hurricane Harvey in 2017. So what they do is they empty the shelter because it never fails. When we end up doing people rescues, we end up doing animal rescues too. All right? And I can't say this enough. And I know, people leave their animals chained up. Do not do that. If you cannot take your pet with you, do not chain up your animals, okay? They will find high ground. We tell our ranchers, this year, during Hurricane Harvey, Charity, how many horses, do you remember how many horses were over at the fairgrounds?
I think there were about 60 horses.
60 horses.
It's all non-commercial livestock.
Right. And since then, the fairgrounds has purchased enough fencing for another 100 horses. So we're making progress. But if you can't, if you live on a farm and you can't evacuate your animals, open your gates. They will find high ground. Also, Fort Bend, we also did water rescues of people and pets. And we did a lot of recoveries, and that's what fills up the shelters. And also, I know Charity has worked with Dr. Bissett up at Texas A&M, and he's helping her on the Animal Issues Committee. And what we do is we call them, and they bring down their emergency vet team, and they set up at the fairgrounds. And I mean, it is an operation like you have never seen in your life. It is basically a veterinary hospital. And any strays or any animals that are rescued are brought over there. They get bathed, they get vaccinated, they get taken care of. But in all honesty, the pets are better off with you than they are, because we got to try to, if they're not claimed, then we got to find homes for them and things like that.